everybody. It is lovely to see you here. I am Hannah. I attend Beacon Church. I know some of you who are here and not everyone. The reason I was asked to host is because I am by background a management accountant some time ago, but yes, the finance in me lives on. And I am also mum to 4 young kids. So know a little bit about, I almost said family planning, but family budgeting. Okay, just to explain the format of the evening, we're going to have a short presentation, which is going to be by Peter. Some of you know Peter Thompson, and he's going to do that for us. And then what we're going to do is we're going to open up to a question panel. And what would be fantastic is to have your questions. I have some prepped as well, so you won't know which ones are which. But it'd be great to hear from you if you have specific questions. Just a massive disclaimer, we are a church, we are not a financial institution, we are not financial advisors, we are not debt advisors, but what we do have is the ability to signpost you in the right direction. So hopefully that's what we'll be able to do, is point you to good resources, good information, and also, you know, amongst us we have a variety of backgrounds, and hopefully can give you some life information as well. Just a final thing to say, if you do feel overwhelmed by your finances, we've also done a webinar on wellbeing, and you can find that at thebeaconchurch.com/wellbeing. If that is, if finances are particularly difficult for you right now and causing you lots of anxiety, that might also be a place to start. Before dealing with the practical financial issues that you have to face. The panel is Peter, who for 24 years was in the Royal Navy, and during that time his responsibilities were with money and legal matters. He then moved on to become a business manager of medical practices, and then finally his last career move was to run a post office and village shop as his own small business. And Peter's now retired, but he has become, during that time, a money coach for Christians Against Poverty, also known as CAP. So that's where he's had training to support you and signpost you to the right kinds of resources. So that's Peter. We also have Steve here, Steve Cranston. Steve is a local business owner, and he's run his own business for the last 10 years. Alongside that, he also manages the Stafford branch of a networking business called Network In. He has been chair of the Federation of Small Businesses, and also mentors startup small businesses along with Staffordshire University, and is a dad to 3 kids, so also can chat about families as well. And then finally we've got Chrissy, and Chrissy is a pastor at Beacon Church, where she's been for the last 2.5 years. Prior to that, she's been a pastor in China and America, and Chrissy has a wealth of financial personal experience, having bought houses, sold houses, but also had a considerable amount of debt for education reasons, and worked really hard to clear lots of that as well. So she can speak from personal experience as well. But should you have any kind of well-being or pastoral questions related to finance, we'll also direct them to Chrissy. So before we begin our presentation with Peter, I just wanted to explain why a church might want to run a course like this on finance, because whilst we think we have lots of resources we can point you to, it's not our main line of business talking about finance. But obviously in the global pandemic that we're in right now, lots of people are facing financial issues, and we are here to support our community, and we are here to care. And so that's why, because this is an issue for lots of people right now, it's an issue that's important to us at the same time. So the Bible does offer budgeting and debt tips, but not heaps of them. But actually it does mention money a lot, but more about the priorities you can have with money. So one quote that Jesus said, as he said, "Where your treasure is, let your heart, there your heart will be also." I think that's a great one for us to remember, whether you're a Christian or not a Christian, that there's lots of important things in life, and often money is not the most important thing in life, and that often it doesn't bring happiness. But we equally recognize that not having it and having financial difficulties can make life really difficult, so that when we budget and we plan, that we do take what's important in life into account in our priorities. And that is a real big theme in the Bible. So I thought that was worth mentioning before we start. So enough from me. I'm now going to pass you over to Peter, and he's going to share his presentation with us.
Okay, thank you. I just need to share the screen then, Sarah. Okay, so good evening, and thank you for joining us. In the light of the coronavirus situation, this financial wellbeing webinar is an overview of the current financial information, helping to signpost you in the right direction so that you can make the right financial decisions for yourselves. It is the first step in preventing you from entering the cycle of debt and poverty. Even though things seem to be easing on the health front, the economic fallout will be felt for some time, and there is always a chance of a second wave, and we need to be prepared for that eventuality. We will answer questions, as Hannah said, at the end of the briefing. I would need to reiterate that we are not financial experts nor financial advisors, and we do not advise on debt. So, financial shock, what is it? The current situation is similar, an unforeseen event with a massive effect on income, in which a lot of people are going to be affected. If you are overwhelmed by financial worries or debts, this can also have a detrimental effect on your mental well-being and close relationships. But I want to make it clear, it is no one's fault for being financially impacted by the coronavirus, so do not blame yourself. No one should feel shame for the financial position that they're in. But please, please understand that there is always a way out of a difficult financial situation. You can ask for help through the Beacon Church website, and there is also contact information for several organisations that can help you.
Peter, can you press slide on your play on your slides, please?
Oh yeah, sorry. That funny one. Is it? Is that the one? Yeah, is that it? So what are the first steps that you can take? As a Christian myself, I would pray. Secondly, don't panic. 3, don't bury your head in the sand. Financial problems don't go away on their own accord, and they can quickly escalate if you don't take action. Try to figure out where you stand financially. Itemise your income and your expenditure and work out a budget. I'll do more on this later. So what are you entitled to and what help could you get? The government have set up various schemes and made changes to the benefit system to help both individuals and businesses affected by the coronavirus. There are some of the things that, these are some of the things that we will be covering. So we've got the furlough scheme, which most people have heard about now, determining your entitlements, applying for sick pay and or universal credit, considering additional employment and addressing issues of self-employment. This information is changing rapidly, so check out the following websites to stay updated on your entitlements. So we've got the moneyadviceservice.org, coronavirus, what it means for you. Overall, this is a great all-rounder. The website is really simple to use, covers areas as key questions, and covers all aspects on financial entitlement. Money savings expert, we've all heard of Martin Lewis. This is great for the latest news on the coronavirus and how it impacts what you are entitled to. It even covers small things like cancelling train tickets and subscriptions. Then we have the citizens' advice. This is brilliant for the latest guidelines by the government. They can also be contacted for impartial advice and can guide you on what you may or may not be entitled to. Sick pay. This is a basic outline of who is and who is not eligible for sick pay. So you're entitled if you're classed as an employee and have begun work. You earn £118 or more per week on average, but you must inform your employer of the COVID-19 self-isolation within 7 days. And if you aren't ill but are following government guidance and can't work from home, you may be entitled if you are an agency worker or casual worker on a 0 hours contract and have started work recently and haven't received 8 weeks pay. You're not entitled if you've had the maximum sick pay, which is 28 weeks, are self-employed, had employment support allowance for the last 12 weeks, are on statutory maternity pay and less than £118 a week, or are an agricultural worker. agricultural workers have their own scheme. If you're isolating because of the coronavirus, you'll get sick pay from day 1, as opposed to day 4, which it still is if you're receiving sick pay for something that is not the coronavirus. One crucial change is that you no longer need a doctor's note, and you don't have to go into a GP surgery to get one. The best person to talk about sick pay is your employer. Some may find this conversation difficult if they don't get on with their employer, but if you need help, just talk to ACAS or the Citizens Advice, and the contacts are on the Beacon Church website. So, the furlough scheme, this is where you're put on standby. You're kept on your employee's payroll rather than being laid off. The scheme covers 80% of your monthly wage up to £2,500. Your employer is encouraged to make up the remaining 20%, but they don't have to. If your salary is reduced as a result of these changes, you may be eligible for support through the welfare system, including universal credit. Further information can be found on the Government UK website. Note, things are changing all the time. Working tax credits. There is no need to inform HMRC if you have a temporary reduction in hours or are furloughed for 8 weeks. You need to check the government website to see if this has been extended when you're near the end of the 8 weeks. If you have a permanent reduction of hours and are made redundant, you need to tell HMRC as soon as possible, as tax credits may reduce or stop. Universal credit, this was brought in 2013. Universal credit replaces 6 in-work and out-of-work benefits. So your income-based GSA, ESA, housing benefit, working tax credit, child tax credit and income support are now lumped all together in the universal credit. If you have not been eligible for universal credit before, you may now be entitled to claim because of a downturn in your employment circumstances. There have been a few changes to this benefit. The standard rate has been increased by £20 a week, which is the same for those on the working tax credit scheme. Housing benefit has also been unfrozen. Universal credit, and any benefits to be honest, can be quite complicated to work out, but these websites should help. We've got turntous.org. Turn to Us have a great benefits calculator, which is updated with the government's changes. It is a brilliant resource for understanding how much universal credit you are entitled to. Then we have the Money Advice Service. These have 2 useful resources, Simple UC Guide and Money Manager. Then we have understandinguniversalcredit.gov UK. This is okay, but it's a government site and it's not as user-friendly as the other 2. If you're unable to keep up with your mortgage payments due to the coronavirus, you really need to talk to your lender. Help is at hand. Mortgage lenders will offer a 3-month mortgage holiday. This has been extended to the 31st of October. There will be no repossessions until the end of October. If you're a renter, you will not be evicted. The first thing to be aware of is that emergency legislation has been announced to suspend new evictions from social and privately rented accommodation while this national emergency is taking place. Go to gov.uk, Help for Renters, for details of these protective measures. Always speak to your landlord if you're having difficulty. You could also be eligible for assistance via the Universal Credit and Housing Benefit. Utility bills, gas and electric. Gas and electricity suppliers have agreed an emergency package of measures to ensure vulnerable people do not get cut off amid a virus outbreak. Many gas and electricity suppliers even have their own grant scheme. to help offer relief to individuals who are struggling with their bills. If you're struggling, always speak to your energy supplier. If you have a prepayment meter, your supplier will try to help you find ways to keep your energy supply connected. If you can't top up your meter because of the coronavirus, firms could send somebody out on your behalf to top up a prepayment meter. Even if you're in arrears at this time, you can still switch energy suppliers to get a better tariff. Some local authorities are offering council tax holidays, although you'll have to make it up later in the year. Always talk to the local council for advice if you are struggling. Water is a necessity and you cannot have your water supply cut off. However, the water company may take you to court if you don't make arrangements to pay your bill. If you are struggling to pay any loans, overdrafts or credit card payments, always talk to your lender. They have measures in place to help you and avoid late payment charges. So, how can you budget during this period? Budgeting can be, in this next period, will be a challenge for many. Things are changing rapidly as to what you may or may not be entitled to. Keep up to date by checking the Money Advice Services coronavirus page. This is regularly updated and covers all financial matters from mortgage payments to statutory sick pay. The point is, budgeting can help you work out where and if you can save money and feel more financially secure during this difficult period. It can also have beneficial implications on your mental health, helping you feel in control of an otherwise stressful situation. Basically, budgeting is working out what money you have coming into your household, either through the bank or in cash, looking at everything you spend money on in a month and working out the difference between those figures. There may also be opportunities to increase your income by taking part in online surveys or selling things on eBay, all manner of stuff you no longer need, or crafts that you have created. The Money Advice Service and Money Savings Expert both have budgeting tools on their websites. There are also various apps that you can download to your phone. If you get stuck with budgeting, as one of the Christians Against Poverty money coaches at Beacon Church, I'm at your disposal. Talk to me, use me, I'm here to help you, or sign up for the next Cap Money course. Saving money on food, really basic stuff really. Always use your fresh ingredients first, know what food keeps longest, check what food you have before buying more, create a weekly menu. That's what I do, and it really saves me money because I only shop for what I need. Keep soup and micro or frozen meals ready for emergencies, because you never know, we might get locked down again. There is also the House of Bread in Stafford, which is an excellent resource to help those who are struggling. With the reduction in income, you may be entitled to receive free school meals. Information on free school meals is on the Government UK website. Some schools are supplying meals through a voucher system. You just need to check with your local school. Okay, so you've worked out your budget and found that you're in debt. It is a horrible feeling, especially if you've been used to being financially stable. But the thing is, it's okay to find yourself in debt and you'll feel better when you address it. There is always a way out of debt, and the anxiety you feel before addressing debt issues is always worse than actually dealing with it. It is so important to seek impartial debt advice before you take any action that could make your own situation worse. Carefully consider the consequences of taking out a loan to cover your debts. Always talk to your bank or lender first, and beware of loan sharks who will try to exploit you. There are several free debt help services listed on the Beacon Church website. Make one of these your first port of call if you're in a debt situation. There are a few organisations that provide free debt advice, and these include Debt Advice Foundation, Payplan, My Money Steps, Citizens Advice, National Deadline, Step Change, and of course CAP UK, which is Christians Against Poverty. All these websites will be on the Beacon Church website. Financial stress and mental health are often linked. If you are overwhelmed with financial worries and it is having an impact on your mental well-being, do not hesitate to be afraid to ask for help. These are 4 websites that will help you: Mind, Money and Mental Health, Rethink, and Mental Health Innovation. We run the CAP Money course through Beacon Church, which shows you how to build a budget, how to balance your income and expenditure so that you don't go into debt. The CAP Money system, which uses 3 accounts, helps show you how to maintain your finances positively and save money for future needs. The CAP system really does work, and it can work for everyone. If anyone is interested in doing a CAP Money course, you can register your interest on the Beacon Church website. It is vitally important to be in control of your money and finances during this time. If you are currently struggling in this area, you have my sincere sympathy, but there is always hope and help available. If ever you need to talk to someone about your finances, just give me a call or send me a message. Talk to me, use me, and I'll always try to help, and it will always be in the strictest confidence. You can contact me through the Beacon Church website. One of the Beacon Church's values is loving people, and that's what we want to do. It doesn't matter if you're a Christian or not, we just want to share the love of Jesus with you and care for you. Thank you. I'll now hand you over to Steve, who will talk about small business.
I'm going to be quite brief on the small business side of things because it's going to be more for those that are possibly watching the replay on this, therefore that. So I'm just going to do a quick run through a little bit of what's out there currently there for that, so we can share that when we have that go out as a replay. And then I'm going to give you a little bit of information that will follow back on from Peter's stuff. So very quickly, there is a £25,000 hospitality grant that the council have been getting in touch with businesses that qualify for. That's on there. If you haven't heard of them but think you qualify, then the Local Enterprise Partnership is the organisation dealing with that. There's a 10k premises grant that any business that is rate registered is eligible for, but if you are in an incubation unit and your owner pays the rates, then unfortunately you don't qualify for that. The self-employed grant now goes up to June, but you can claim that up to July 13th if you're self-employed, and that's where your exclusive income comes from, and that's up to £7,500 per month based on 80% of your profits. And then there's a further scheme that Peter mentioned, which I won't go over again, but that is up to £2,500 that any employee or employer can use to cover up to 80% of employees' wages there for that. There is currently bounce back loans, which are 100% government backed and issued by all major banks and don't have any interest on for the next 6 months. And there is also a COVID-19 project fund locally here in Stafford by the Community Foundation, which is something that you can apply for if you're a charity, which will access up to £500 of money. Now, to follow on from Peter very quickly as well, I'd like to give some practical things that may be worth looking at on there. And one of the easiest ways to look at your finances and maybe look at where payments could be saved is reviewing what your major outgoings now be. Now, if you have a mortgage, interest rates are the lowest that they've ever been on there. So it's well worth speaking to a mortgage advisor. There's AMG Financial Services in Stafford that have offered anyone as part of the Beacon a 3-hour consultation where they'll see if they can save the money. And all you have to do is bring a recent mortgage statement to them and they'll go through that with you. There is Willow Financial, or a financial advisor, and I'm really pleased to see Becky on this call with us as well on there. Now, there's a lot of misconception on financial advisors that they're just for those that deal with lots of money, but if you have inheritance that comes through, or if you're looking at how you bring multiple pensions together on there as well, if you're at the age where you're not sure where all your pensions are placed on there, it's well worth just having a quick chat with someone that is experienced and can deal with helping pull all your pensions together. And I know that Becky won't mind me saying that she's more than happy to have a quick conversation with anyone, and you can look Willow Financial up online to find out a number to call them on. And then if you're an employee and you're worried about if you've been furloughed maybe, and if you're being asked to work or do things like that, there is employment law solutions that will help support you if you're being told to do things by your employer that you think maybe I shouldn't be doing. Because when you're furloughed, the expectation is you do not work. The only thing you're allowed to be asked to do is training. And if it's not training, then it's essentially, it falls into the labour category. So it may well be worth having a quick conversation with a legal professional. And these list of companies are all local. They've got great experts in there that can support you and answer some questions on there. And then of course an accountant that if you're dealing with maybe sort of like a little bit of self-employed income that's come in and pots of money in different places on there, there's a great local accountant, Key Accountancy, Karen Lewis, who will also review that with you and just make sure that if there's any tax that you are due, or maybe that you weren't sure that you're due, or likewise if you've got inheritance or potentially you're dealing as an executor or someone's will, for example, on there, there's all the kinds of liabilities that can come from there, and she'll just help make sure you get the right advice from HMRC to make sure that you pay the right amount of tax and that you're guided through that process on there for it. But we all know money can be scary, and actually I think the thing I want to reassure you all about is that there is actually such a great deal of help and support out there, and the biggest thing is to talk to people. It's something that can so often fall into the pride category, where we aren't as a country particularly good about talking about money, but actually it can be such a weight off our minds when we speak to those in the know about it. I've been there as well when I've had things I've not understood and been able to go to professionals, and actually what may seem like a dire situation completely turns around when you have a professional sit down with you, or someone like Peter, or someone like the Citizens Advice Bureau, and they go through, actually you can be relieved from this burden. This is a plan of what it looks like, because actually it's so difficult to do things in your own strength. I mean, we talk as a church, and Hannah rightly sort of said the first place we should turn is to God for that. But there is great resources in the church, supporting the church, and locally as well. So the biggest thing I'd say is talk about any financial worries you've got to someone that you trust. Use the signposting services that Peter has, and that'll be a great way to make sure that you don't fall into a cycle where you feel like the debt is just getting overwhelming, because we don't want anyone in our church to be falling into that place there for that. So that's my little piece summarised on there.
Thank you very much, Peter. Thank you very much, Steve. It's worth saying we have put together a website page called thebeaconchurch.com/finance that you can reach from the community response page. And the majority of the links that were in the presentation are there. We'll take a look at it at the end, but also we'll put Peter's presentation up as well. So if there were super handy things that you were particularly interested in there, then we'll make sure that that's up tomorrow, probably in the morning. And there is already a whole bunch of information on there, including a link to the CAP course that Peter mentioned. So it looks like I have a question. So the question is, I have just lost my job and have little savings. I've started looking for a new job, but things aren't looking great. I feel overwhelmed and don't know what to do next. Where should I start? So I'm going to ask that to Peter, if Sarah could unmute Peter.
Okay,
where to start? What's the priority? Because there was lots of information in your presentation, all of it great, but do you start with the water bill, or where's the best place to start?
You need money. So what I would say is the first thing to do is to seek out what benefits you could be entitled to. There's the new job seekers allowance and also the universal credit. So the best place to go for that would be where are we? Sorry. There's if you go to turntous.org, they will be able to, on their website, you can calculate how much you would be entitled to. And also on the gov.uk website, if you just look up new job seekers allowance and also universal credit on there, that should guide you through what you're able to be and what you would be entitled to. But the thing is, you need money if you've lost your job, and that would be the first port of call, I would say.
Thank you, Peter. Great, so start with income and then take it from there. I'm going to pass that question on to Chrissy as well. Could you just give us a little comment on if someone's feeling overwhelmed?
Yeah, I think what Steve and Peter both said was actually really helpful, to recognize that there is hope, that you don't need to give in and feel like, oh, it's impossible. It may be that if you're a Christian, you want to speak to someone from the church, or even if you're not, speak to someone that you trust, because sometimes just being able to say, it's hard with finances. We feel quite vulnerable, and maybe I know what it's like, to feel, oh, I'm embarrassed. I don't want someone to know my situation. But really, there's no reason to be embarrassed. Most of us have been in these types of situations at one point or another. And it just helps sometimes to tell someone else, especially someone who's not emotionally involved in the decisions, because they can help to calm you, they can help you, and especially if you're a Christian, then they can turn you to things within your faith that can encourage you and help you to come back to, okay, what are the facts, what is the reality? And like Peter said, what is the next helpful step that I can take? And I will say from personal experience, because it wasn't long ago that I was in a very difficult circumstances myself, and I remember turning up to a money course similar to the CAP course, and by the end I was in tears. And the reason I was in tears is because I was so relieved, because they sort of made a list and said, look, here's some bills that actually you can just call them and they're not going to send you to jail if you can't pay them. You can negotiate. And it was just a weight off my shoulders to realize, like, I can feed myself and keep a roof over my head, and these other things I can make an arrangement. So I think, like Peter said, sort of talking with someone, and Steve said, talk to someone who can help you to sort out what are the things that are essential and what are the things that actually this can wait, and there's a way around this, and I just need someone to guide me through. Yeah.
Okay, thank you, Chrissy. That's super helpful. Oh, sorry, it looks like Peter has something to add.
Okay. Can I also say that if you claim for universal credit because of your situation, you can actually, because it takes about 5 weeks for it to come through, but you can actually have an advance of a month, which will be deducted over the following 12 months.
Right.
So, things are, you can get money almost straight away, well, a few days.
Great,
so
thank you.
Things aren't totally desperate.
Thank you. Carol would like to ask her question verbally rather than typing it in. Carol, if Sarah's unmuted you, what's your question, Carol?
I don't know if it's something can be answered or not. I think it's more directed at Steve. I'm on universal credit, which I went on when Mum had to go into full-time care. And I've done the business enterprise to get a business started, which I've got a market stall, which is 2 days a week, that I love. But what they didn't tell me at the beginning, that universal credit says that you can do it for a year, and after a year you have to be making enough money basically to support yourself, and they will deduct that. Because I had the heart attack as well, I had a while where I was still paying rent, and my neighbour stores was looking after my store, but I couldn't go, I was signed off. So yes, I was selling bits but not breaking even. Now I had some savings, and each month I'm putting about £50 of my savings into my bank to live on. Because I started April, I wasn't in business for a year, so I haven't qualified for any of the help. Now I think they might be not doing the income floor for a little while, but I really don't want to pack my market up. I love it, but I can't pay to keep my a living that they said they will cut off anyway.
Thank you, Carol. That's a really good question, and I mean these topics are so sensitive and emotive, because they really sort of like really hit you right in the heart sometimes when you've got the pressure on there. The first good news I can say for you is that you are right. While you won't qualify for the self-employed scheme on there for that, there has been a local scheme set up where there's a £500,000 pot that's been given to Staffordshire County Council, and it's delivered by an organisation called the Local Enterprise Partnership. And this is for people exactly in your situation where the bills have perhaps got overwhelming, and it's for up to £1,000 that if you can demonstrate that you've got maybe a supplier that you owe money to. So it's the only stipulation that they say on this one is that it can't be just rent costs. So it could be just the cost for your market stall. But if you've got, say, unusual costs or costs such as products you bought that you owe for, they can help you out with paying for that and covering costs, especially if you're falling below the threshold on there. The second thing, with the extenuating nature of your circumstance on there, where you mentioned about having a year to go through it, what you can do with that is there's a body that's set up called the Local Enterprise Partnership that I mentioned earlier, just for that, for supporting people like you that find yourself in extenuating circumstances and essentially there to fight your corner. So they've got a lot of different things that they can do with that. One of the things I think actually personally for you would find enormously helpful is through the Chamber of Commerce, which is a free mentoring scheme where you get 12 hours of free mentoring from someone that they'll pair you up with that will most likely be quite close to the sector of the business that you work in, but will have a few more years of experience on there. It will cost you absolutely nothing to do for that. It's a free scheme that is supported by the Chamber of Commerce. And what I'll do is I'll email you a name and a contact where you can get a one-to-one mentor for up to 12 hours, because I think that'll probably be the most practical thing that you can do with this, is have someone that can talk you through that, understands your situation in more depth, and then contact what's called the Local Enterprise Partnership Growth Hub and ask them about the information on the coronavirus relief funds, because you may well be, in fact, I highly suspect if you've got any invoices that are due to be paid up to the value of £1,000 or in excess of the value of £1,000, you can have £1,000 of grant money that is non-repayable towards that. That is a pure grant, and that's designed to keep businesses, especially new businesses, afloat for that. So you're exactly the kind of person they want to support with that money.
I have another question. This one is for Peter again. It says, my family is doing okay, but we never managed to save enough to not pay off our credit cards. Any tips on cutting costs and managing finances better?
Okay. So the first thing you need to do is find out where you stand financially. And that the only way that you can do that is to do a budget. So you work out what's coming in and then everything that's going out. Then you look at it and hopefully you've got a bit left over at the end. You're in credit. However, what you should do is, if you really need to cut your costs, is look at what you're spending your money on. You cut your costs and do things cheaper, or cut back if there's something that you don't really need. You know, like magazine subscriptions, gym membership. Do you really need them? If not, cut them out. That'll save you money. Just look at everything that you spend and do you actually need it? Or could you do it cheaper? Shop around. You know, if you've got an electricity supplier, shop around. You could get a cheaper electricity supplier. And also look at your income. Is there any way that you could increase your income? Could you take on extra work? Could you rent out a room? Could you sell things on eBay? Anything that would just help increase your income. But the good starting point really is do a budget, work out exactly what you've got coming in, what you've got coming out, and see where you could save your money. It's
fantastic. Thank you.
Yeah, when it's there in front of you visually, it's much easier to see.
Chrissy, do you have something to add to that?
Just a really practical suggestion, which actually I've heard Peter teach at the CAP course and also at another financial course I took, and it has made a huge difference. Next month, I will pay my very last credit card payment, and I had 3 of them and over $10,000 US. So I can tell you from experience, it's hard work, but it can be done. And I was not working a full-time job when I was working on paying them off. So I speak from experience in paying off credit cards. And what I can tell you is the thing that has most helped me was switching to a cash basis. Now, I realize right now lots of things are cashless, so it's maybe, you have to weigh the pandemic and when that passes. But the course that I attended a few years back, they called it the envelope system. And literally for like big bills, you're not going to overspend on your water bill. You just pay whatever it is. But for groceries and gas and entertainment and whatever personal spending, even things like buying gifts for my friends, all those things, they each have a budget. And even if it's just £5, because my budget is quite tight and I'm committed to getting out of debt, so sometimes all I have is £5, I pulled the cash out and I put it in an envelope. And when the money in the envelope is gone, you have nothing else to spend. And if you don't spend it, then you just grow it a little bit. And it sounds silly, but honestly, when you use a debit card, you lose track of what you're spending and you will overspend. I've overspent on my grocery budget in the last 2 months more than I have in an entire year, because we're doing everything cashless, and I've stopped doing cash. And I will tell myself I'm only going to spend this, and you do, but then you forget. I'm just telling you, the best tip I could ever give you is get yourself some envelopes or use cash for those little bits. You will find that actually you probably will save money and you'll stick to your budget a lot better. That is my best tip I could ever give you about finances. Use envelopes.
Thank you very much, Chrissy. A top tip from Chrissy there.
Yes.
Cool. I have a business one for Steve. It says, I'm self-employed and have been able to carry on working throughout lockdown, but business is slowing a little. I think you've covered some of this already, Steve, but what support is there out there for me?
I think that's quite well covered on the previous ones on there. For that's
what would be your number one place to start looking, Steve?
The number one place would be the local enterprise partnership, because that's where all the grants are held there for that as well. And then secondary to that, probably one I haven't mentioned that is worth looking at is I mentioned it briefly, but the Community Foundation have grants specifically related to COVID-19. So it's not necessarily just a business one there for that, but it's for charities or for projects that are helping relieve COVID-19. So if you're doing something that is based around COVID-19, they have a small grant pot up to £500 worth of support. And they're based just here locally on the Technology Park. And we're more than happy to see people. We've used them recently for Littleworth Community Centre to help towards a new roof that's going on there for that. So there's all sorts of things, but it's not just project based. It could be an initiative or an idea you've got that is helping with the COVID-19 relief, and it's a very simple form to fill in on that one.
Thank you. Another question I have is about somebody who got into debt in the past, relieved themselves of that, but with coronavirus, things are difficult again, but they know their family could support them, but they don't want to go back to them because they feel too ashamed. Do you have anything to say about the feelings associated with being in debt and the emotions around that, Chrissy?
It's complex, really. I'm not convinced that I have a very good answer for that, because you do just feel that way, don't you? And I don't know how I can tell you to will yourself to stop feeling that way, but perhaps part of being courageous is doing it afraid and saying, if this is the situation that you're in, especially if it's family or people that you know that love you and they do have the ability to help you in some way, whether it's emotionally or practically, they would want to know that, even if it's hard for you. So a little bit, my suggestion is do it afraid. If you need help, whether it's going to a course, speaking to someone like Becky, a financial advisor, or speaking to family members, or even speaking to a pastor, you just kind of have to do it and acknowledge it's okay to feel that way. You don't have to, but it is okay to feel that way. You wouldn't be the only one who feels that way. But a little bit, just do it afraid, because people who really care about you, and even people you don't know, if they're in the financial industry, they care about people and they want to help you. No one would want you to suffer alone. No one would want you to go through that without seeking help. So that's my advice. I don't know, that's very good advice, but.
No, I think that's very helpful. Thank you, Chrissy. I've just got one final question, unless anyone else has any they want to send to Sarah. This is my question actually for Peter again, is could you just give us an overview? You've mentioned some of the content of the CAP course, but how does it take place? Is it something that runs over several weeks? Is it a day course or several evenings? How do you normally run that one, Peter?
The last couple of ones I've done over 2 evenings, sort of over 2 weeks. It normally takes about 2 hours each session. Yeah, so, and basically online, you've got all the materials that you'll need. And also we have a course book which people can take away and work through on their own as well. But we do go through the course book during the course itself on the evening. But the online tools that are on the CAP course are superb because it's got all your budget to work out, and it actually works it out for you.
Right, so very practical.
Oh, very, yeah. I did have a question from Elaine. Did you want to say, Elaine, what you meant?
Elaine's muted at the moment. Would you mind asking that one for us, Peter?
Yeah, so Elaine said, what about swapping to an interest-free card, chop it up and put it in the drawer so you don't spend money?
Another top tip then. Thank you.
Yes.
Yes. A lot of that, I was on the moneysavingexpert.com website today, and there's a lot of practical tips like that on there, as well as the kind of bigger stuff, but that's got lots of practical tips and lots of forums for really nitty gritty, how can I budget meals and what recipes cost less in the weekends as well. Some really, really super practical stuff. Just Peter, one other question. How much does the CAP course cost?
You'll be happy to know it's free.
Fantastic. Okay, and I can sign up to that one at the beaconchurch.com/finance, right?
Yeah, and you don't even have to bring biscuits. I'll do that.
Oh, you are too kind. Sarah, I wonder if you could pull up the website for us. If you go to the homepage and share that screen. Oh, there we go. Okay, so this is the homepage, and then this is the finance page. So it starts off, there's just a short bit that says about the finance webinar. What we will do is we'll eventually put this up as a video recording. Then next up, it mentions the CAP course. If you click on that picture, you can actually then go and sign up to the CAP course. Then there's links to the 3 websites that Peter mentioned, the Money Advice Service, Money Saving Expert and Citizens Advice Bureau. And then I've picked the key ones out from the presentation. If you click on those individual boxes, they will then take you to the different websites. So one's a budgeting tool, one's the national debt line, etc. And then also below that is then you get to the finance bit. So that's the local businesses that Steve has arranged additional support with, including Willow Finance there from Becky, who's attended. And there is the business resources as well, including the local enterprise partnership that Steve mentioned a couple of times, along with other grant bodies and the government business support that you can get access to. Fab. Thank you, Sarah. Great. Thank you very much, everyone. That's everything from me. If you did want to contact the church for any reason, whether it was to join the CAP course, if you had a pastoral question for Chrissy, or you just wanted to touch base and let us know how you're getting on, then please do feel free. You can contact us anytime using the email address info@thebeaconchurch.com, and you can also check out that website. info@thebeaconchurch.com sounds super generic. It actually only comes to me. So I will be the one receiving your email should you choose to, and then I can pass that on to the most appropriate person. So thank you so much for attending. I hope that's been useful. And yeah, don't be strangers. Do get in touch if there's anything else that you want to find out more about. So thank you very much for attending.